Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your sources, articles, research notes, whatever you send us, and really plunge in to find the key insights and maybe some surprising details. And thanks again for sharing the material that makes this show possible.
It really is fascinating. You never quite know what's going to emerge when we dig into the layers of information you provide.
So today we're doing a deep dive into post-COVID consumer trends, and we're looking specifically, based on the material you shared, at changes observed in China.
Right, and China is such a compelling case study here because, well, the source material points out it reached a state near what they call the after-corona period quite early on. We're talking summer 2020.
That early time frame gives us a really unique window, doesn't it? So our mission today is to unpack this source material, try to understand how consumer thinking and the businesses serving them shifted.
Yeah, and pull out those key insights, maybe find some unexpected details that really, stand out.
Okay, let's get into it then. The material notes that while China did reach the state near ending back in summer 2020, making it this early example, it wasn't exactly a clean break, was it?
No, not at all. Despite, official statements, small clusters kept popping up here and there.
Oh, okay.
And that lingering uncertainty, it really prevented a feeling of a sort of complete end. And crucially, it left this layer of psychological anxiety just under the surface for a lot of people.
And that anxiety, I imagine, makes analyzing behavior pretty tricky. Like, is a change we see now a genuine ingrained new habit?
Or is it still being driven by that underlying COVID anxiety,
Yeah.
which means it could be temporary, right?
Right.
Exactly. And the research points out we just don't have much historical precedent for this kind of global event. I mean, beyond something like the Spanish flu a century ago.
Wow, yeah.
So that makes it incredibly difficult to definitively say, okay, this is a long-term shift versus that's just a reaction still rooted in the immediate pandemic experience.
Something that really jumped out at me from the notes was how different places approached prevention and how that seems to have directly shaped behavior. The sources highlighted a key difference between, say, Japan's approach and China's.
Yeah, that's a really important point. In Japan, the focus was heavily on avoiding the three C's, dense, close, closed spaces, plus hand washing, masking, mostly thinking about droplet infection.
But in China, the material suggests there was a much stronger emphasis, almost pervasive, on contact infection.
Precisely. You saw this in the kinds of behaviors people adopted, like
Mm-hmm.
actively trying not to touch public surfaces.
Uh-huh.
And the sources even mention people using things like, get this, toothpicks or keys to push elevator buttons.
Toothpicks, wow. Okay, that definitely shows a different level of concern about surfaces.
It really does. And the
Wow.
sources gave that striking example. Remember the Shanxi Courier Company cluster?
Oh, yeah. They halted operations, disinfected everything.
And they actually recommended that people receiving packages wear gloves and goggles and disinfect the package itself before opening.
Goggles just to open a delivery? That seems intense.
It does. And it stemmed from concerns about the virus lingering on items, even if maybe only for hours or days. But that level of focus on contact transmission, it just seems notably different from the main messaging elsewhere.
Another key emphasis we saw in the notes was minimizing travel distance.
Right. And this is interesting because, okay, obviously if you don't travel far, you're less likely to be in those 3C situations.
Sure, makes sense.
But the framing was different. The emphasis was more on the distance itself being a risk factor.
And this wasn't just a gut feeling, was it? The material mentioned that Baidu Sea Watcher model.
Yeah, the Baidu Sea Watcher. It used map data, machine learning, basically predicted lower cluster probability in areas where essential places, hospitals, schools, restaurants were nearby within a kilometer, and where residents generally had shorter travel distances.
So the data actually supported this short travel equals lower risk idea.
It did, yeah. And that likely reinforced the official messaging around it.
And we saw policies reflecting that too, right? Discouraging travel between cities or provinces.
Mandatory isolation for certain workers coming in from other provinces.
Yeah.
And the material even draws a parallel between blockading affected districts and, ancient methods of transmission control. It suggests this kind of localized containment is maybe quite deeply ingrained.
Okay, so here's the crucial takeaway from this part, I think. Regardless of which prevention idea is, scientifically most effective,
Right.
the material really emphasizes that the Chinese approach, with its strong focus on contact and distance, significantly influenced consumer behavior.
That's the key point. That's what sets the stage for the trends we're about to look at. The perception of risk and the actions people took based on these specific prevention ideas, That's what really shaped the market's response.
Okay, so given that context, what did this actually mean for consumers day to day? The sources identified four main shifts in behavior.
Yep. They group them into four categories. First, health. First, that's a POE in the original. Second, digitalization of life, or DX. Third, environmental awareness. And fourth, new consumption styles. And the sources suggest the first three probably have parallels globally, right? Health, digital, environment.
Yeah,
We see that everywhere.
definitely. But that fourth one, new consumption styles, seems particularly distinct to the way things developed in China.
Okay. And what's really quite striking is just how quickly new businesses popped up or existing ones really pivoted in direct response to these shifts. It really highlights the dynamism of that market even when things were tough during the pandemic.
All right, let's dive into trend one then. Health first. You mentioned this ties directly back to people avoiding long-distance travel.
Absolutely. Look at the data from the 2021 National Day holiday that was in the material. Travel actually went down compared to 2020.
Down, even compared to 2020.
Yeah, down 1.5% versus 2020. And compared to pre-COVID levels, it was a massive drop, like 40% fewer travelers.
Wow, 40%. That's huge.
And the distance people traveled shrank dramatically. Nearly half, 49.1%, stayed within their own province, and almost 90% traveled less than 300 kilometers.
Okay, so people were definitely staying closer to home, but they still wanted things to do, right? Entertainment.
Exactly. And the material contrasts this travel decline with the success of local options. Like movie theaters, they had a record National Day period revenue, 4.2 billion yuan or so, partly thanks to a big hit film.
So people stayed local, but they still went out for entertainment nearby.
Seems like it. And this overall focus on staying home more, prioritizing personal health, well, it led to pretty significant growth in health-related businesses.
Makes sense. What examples did the sources give?
Well, one that really captures the home fitness trend is the Fitcher Magic Mirror.
The magic mirror. Okay, tell me about that. Sounds intriguing.
It's basically a full-size mirror, but it's also a high-res 4K display.
Hmm?
You use your smartphone to pick a fitness class or a coach, and the coach's video appears right there on the mirror surface, next to your own reflection.
Oh, I see. So you can watch the instructor and literally see yourself doing the moves right beside them, comparing form.
Exactly. It's a really simple but clever mechanism for home workouts.
Yeah, that is clever.
And it uses a camera, image analysis, to track your movements, like it can count your squats or time your reps, that sort of thing.
And the business model.
It's selling the mirror itself, the hardware, plus content subscriptions for the classes, and maybe buying some individual lessons too. The material notes it grew really fast from late 2020 and attracted significant investment.
So the insight there is taking that need for guided fitness, amplified by being home, and solving it with intuitive tech and a subscription.
Pretty much. It's visually comparative, integrated, smart.
Okay, another example that shifted dramatically was Boohee, right? Or Erdinus. Started way back in 2008 as just a diet tracking app.
Yeah, initially it was fairly basic. You log your meals from their huge food database. It tracks calories.
Standard tracker?
Right. But post-COVID, it really pivoted and expanded. It became much more of a general healthy eating management tool.
And this shift worked out well for them.
Incredibly well. Sales reportedly tripled in 2020. And it wasn't just more users signing up. Their direct e-commerce sales took off. They had this wireless body fat scale that became a really popular product.
So they went from just tracking info to actually selling stuff related to health.
Exactly. They added features that suggest optimal meal plans based on your user data, your goals, and then they sell their own brand of health foods designed to fit those plans.
Closing the loop.
Yeah. And they promote heavily using video blogs. Douyin, Weibo, and apparently celebrities started using their products too.
Yeah.
The material even mentions the app is available on the iOS App Store in Japan, so it's got some reach.
So the takeaway from Boohee is adapting an existing service to that broader health focus, integrating recommendations with direct sales, and nailing the content marketing.
Yeah, it went from just a tool to a kind of whole health ecosystem. Very smart adaptation.
Okay, let's move to trend 2. Digitalization of life, DX. Now, smartphones for shopping, that was already massive in China, pre-COVID.
Oh, absolutely. But the pandemic really cemented that habit for even more people and across more categories. The material talks about the surge and then things settling at a new higher level for stuff like,
Like the 30-minute delivery supermarkets.
yeah, those new retail supermarkets, fresh food e-commerce, general e-commerce, food delivery, all driven by people being less willing to go into physical stores.
But the sources highlight one service that maybe existed before but really took off and stuck post-COVID: drug delivery.
Right, like 24/7 delivery, often within about an hour, ordered through smartphone apps. Illy.me, part of Alibaba, is a big one.
And the material explains why this wasn't such a big thing before the pandemic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it boils down to a cultural preference, apparently. In China, people often really want professional consultation when buying medicine.
Right, like the tradition of visiting herbal pharmacies with doctors on site.
Exactly. Getting a diagnosis, a custom prescription. And even with Western medicine, the tendency is often to consult a pharmacist or doctor rather than just picking something off the shelf yourself. That need for advice was a major barrier for simple delivery apps.
Okay, so if people wanted advice first, how did drug delivery suddenly take off during the pandemic? What changed?
This is the key bit. Alibaba's solution, and others probably followed, was introducing online doctors and pharmacists within the app.
Ah, so it wasn't just ordering the pills, it was getting the consultation digitally first.
Precisely. You could use chat or maybe a call feature right in the app to talk to an online pharmacist about your symptoms. They give you a recommendation.
And then you order the medicine they recommended for delivery.
Exactly. Having that online professional consultation available, that was the breakthrough. It removed the main barrier tied to consumer preference and habit. And, it also meant pharmacists could work remotely, which was obviously helpful during lockdowns.
Very clever solution. Okay, let's shift to trend 3. Environmental awareness. The material gives some context here. China as a large emitter, pollution issues, sure, but also making serious efforts.
Yeah, it mentions things like the EV shift progressing. And they actually had plastic bag fees way back in 2008.
Right. And the source is careful to acknowledge the global debate around, the real impact of some measures.
Like EVs using electricity from fossil fuels, or whether eco bags are always better than traditional plastic bags made from refinery byproducts. It's complex, and stats can tell different stories.
Sure. But the clear trend the sources point to is this growing environmental consciousness, especially among younger generations in China.
Yes, and how that seems to combine with what the material calls a sort of Chinese rationality and practicality.
Rationality and practicality. How does that combo play out in behavior?
Well, you see simple things, like people refusing extra packaging in stores. That's
Hmm.
pretty common globally now.
Okay.
But the material describes something maybe more surprising. People opening purchases, even courier deliveries, right on the spot where they receive them.
Wait, like opening the Amazon box right there on the doorstep?
Kind of, yeah. And taking only the contents, leaving the empty box or packaging behind.
Huh. Why would they do that?
The material suggests it's partly environmental, yes, but also very much about avoiding the hassle of disposing of the garbage at home. City sorting rules can be complicated.
Ah, so it's that mix again, environmental awareness plus pure convenience, avoiding the chore of breaking down boxes.
Exactly. That intersection seems to be a powerful driver. The insight being maybe that environmental action gets stronger when it also solves a practical problem for the individual.
And they're also using fun game-like approaches here too.
Yeah, a really big example is Ant Forest within the Alipay app. It's a public welfare program started back in 2016, actually.
How does it work?
Basically, you earn virtual carbon reduction points for doing low-impact things, taking the subway, using Alipay instead of cash, stuff like that. These points grow a virtual tree in the app.
Okay, virtual tree.
And when your virtual tree is fully grown, Ant Financial arranges for a real sapling to be planted in a managed area, one of their ant forests.
Wow. And people actually do this.
The numbers are huge. The material cited something like over 600 million participants, resulting in over 320 million real trees planted.
That's incredible scale.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the key insight is clearly the power of gamification, making it easy, visual, rewarding to drive collective environmental action that's tied into everyday digital habits.
Another cool example linked to more people being at home was Saturn Bird Coffee's Return Voyage plan.
Yeah, Saturn Bird. It's a popular instant specialty coffee brand known for good taste, cool design, kind of aimed at busy young professionals.
And they have a recycling program.
Yes, specifically for their used coffee packages, which
Yeah.
are these distinctive little single-serving cups. They started it in 2019.
So you collect the little cups. Then what?
You collect them, And then periodically you can return them to designated drop-off spots. And you get rewards, maybe free coffee, other merchandise based on how many you return.
And this took off during COVID.
The material links its growth directly to more people drinking coffee at home. As Saturn bird consumption went up, participation in the recycling plan surged too, apparently doubling in scale in 2020.
So the insight there is a brand building loyalty by making recycling easy, rewarding, and part of the whole consumption experience for a product aimed at conscious consumers.
Exactly. It enhances the brand image and makes the eco-choice convenient and beneficial.
The material also touched on the rise of the used goods market, which apparently goes against an older idea that Chinese consumers weren't keen on used items.
Yeah, that perception seems to be changing fast, particularly with younger people. The notes mention success in areas like used cars. Some popular models can even hold or gain value used. And it also highlighted that platforms that act as a middleman, providing quality checks, maybe repairs, that C2B2C model, tend to do better than just simple peer-to-peer C2C sites. Adds a layer of trust.
And a popular example service was Duozuiyu.
Yes, Duozuiyu. It's a popular used book service expanding into other things too, especially with young city dwellers. They buy used books, check the quality, clean them up, and then resell them online and through some cool physical stores.
Just any old books.
No, the material says they're more curated, focusing on maybe higher value categories, design, literature, science, not just mass market paperbacks. And visiting their physical store is apparently seen as kind of a fun treasure hunt for unique or out-of-print stuff.
So the used market thrives with trust, convenience, and maybe some curation or added value.
Seems to do the winning formula, yeah.
Yeah.
Addresses practicality, but also evolving tastes.
Okay, finally, trend 4, new consumption styles. The sources say this period saw new ways of buying things emerge, especially in e-commerce.
Yeah, some we might recognize, like subscription purchases for regular consumables, cosmetics, food, daily stuff, auto delivery.
Okay, what else?
Variations like using push notifications with discount coupons timed to when you probably need to repurchase something based on your buying history.
Smart targeting.
And those expert curated services getting periodic deliveries of clothes or food selected by pros based on your profile.
Right.
And one I thought was particularly interesting, upgrade coupons, offering discounts on the new model of an electronic gadget or appliance you already own, again using your purchase data.
Why were businesses pushing these new models so hard? What was the underlying driver?
According to the sources, it was largely driven by the sheer difficulty in selling brand new products the old way.
Because people weren't browsing in stores as much?
Exactly. Less foot traffic means less exposure, less impulse discovery. And just running online ads isn't always enough, especially for things like cosmetics or maybe certain foods where people really want to try before they commit to a full-size purchase.
Okay, so how did they tackle that try before you buy problem online? Did Alibaba have a specific answer?
They did. Tmall U-Selection. This was basically set up as a way to buy trial products.
Trial products, so like tiny free samples.
Not necessarily tiny and usually not free, but very cheap. The prices varied, this source said, from like pennies up to maybe $4 or $5, 0.01 to 29.9 yuan. And often these were actually full-size products, just sold at a massive discount for your first purchase.
A full-size product for a few bucks as a trial. Okay, how does that drive future sales?
Well, the mechanism is quite clever. When you buy one of these trial products, it automatically makes you follow that brand within Alipay or Tmall.
Ah, okay. Opting you in.
Right, which then lets the brand send you highly targeted push notifications, later reminders to repurchase, info on related products, special offers.
So for the manufacturer, it solves that trial problem, gets the product in hands.
And it overcomes the customer acquisition challenge. Plus, they get incredibly valuable marketing data from analyzing that initial purchase via Alipay. It helps them target better and encourages repeat buys.
So the heavily discounted trial isn't just a sample, it's like a sophisticated customer acquisition tool and data point generator.
That seems to be the insight, yeah. Very data-driven.
But the sources mention something really unique about Tmall U-Selection, an offline part.
Yes. These dedicated vending machines, placed in loads of public areas, 20,000 of them across 40 cities apparently, in malls, supermarkets, hospitals, even universities.
Vending machines selling these trial products.
Yes, but the material suggests they're viewed more strategically in China than just as simple sales points. They're seen almost as marketing information gathering devices.
Hope so.
The data on what kinds of trial products sell well in which specific locations, which mall, which university campus that provides really valuable insights. It helps brands and Tmall figure out where demand is strong, maybe informing decisions about where to open actual stores later or where to focus offline marketing.
Wow, using a vending machine as a real-world data sensor, that's a different way of thinking about it.
It really is. And apparently it's working. The source mentioned over 100 million Tmall used selection items were sold online and offline combined just in 2020.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've looked at these four key shifts: health first, digitalization, environmental awareness, and these new consumption styles.
Okay. And as we said, the first three, health, digital environment, they definitely resonate globally. People everywhere are thinking more about health, using more digital tools, becoming more environmentally aware, to different degrees.
But what seems to really stand out in the China context, based on these sources, is the speed and success of genuinely new business models and services popping up to meet those shifts.
Precisely. The sources kind of contrast this dynamism with what they described elsewhere, like that brief comparison to Japan's tendency towards gimmick consumption or
Mhm.
stuff driven by temporary buzz, fleeting trends.
Which often doesn't lead to repeat purchases, right? Makes it hard for businesses to plan.
It's exactly. Hard to build sustainable businesses around, messes with production, inventory. The key takeaway here seems to be less about what people now care about, health, ease, environment, and more about how the market adapted so quickly to build potentially lasting business models around those concerns.
Yeah, that connection between the shift in thinking and the business model innovation is key.
And if we think back to Boohee, that health app example,
Hmm.
it's a great illustration. They didn't just add a feature. They fundamentally adapted an existing digital tool into this integrated health management platform using direct e-commerce to meet that core need that got amplified by the pandemic.
Right. The material even suggested checking out the Boohee app as a concrete example of how these models work in practice.
Yeah, it's a tangible case study.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into the source material on these Chinese post-COVID consumer trends. We've seen shifts driven by health concerns, accelerated digital adoption, that growing environmental practicality, and these really innovative, data-driven ways of buying and selling.
And it leaves us with a pretty interesting question for you, the listener, to think about. When consumer priorities make a big shift, like towards health or the environment trend, how do different markets actually translate that into business reality? Do they mainly chase the temporary buzz, the latest fad?
Or do they manage to create entirely new services and business models, potentially long-lasting ones that really integrate those new priorities? And maybe what are the underlying factors that determine which path the fleeting trend or the integrated model ends up emerging in a particular market?
Yeah, something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you again for sharing the sources that made this deep dive possible today.